farmhouse, no running water, no electricity, no telephone, of course. We didn't even have a telephone at school. But it was a good school. Four-room school, 2 grades in each room. And when I finished the 8th grade test, I came out like 10th out of 42,000 students in Ohio. So I know I got a good education because I had good teachers. And I've gone through this speech in my mind about 10 times. I got a whole lot of different speeches, but I don't know what I'm going to say till I say it. But first of all, I was going to start out telling you about 9/11. You all heard about 9/11, 01. Well, it was on 9/11/61. Monday morning, same kind of weather, nice, clear day in September, that the doors opened for Fairfax Christian School. We met in an old Victorian house over there in Fairfax City, which was then the town of Fairfax. Didn't have much money, but I had a wife who was an education major, and myself, I was a philosophy major. And I came down to Virginia. One of my degrees was BD, which I thought stood for Bachelor of Divinity. I found out it stood for bus driver. So I've done it all. I was the headmaster, teacher, bus driver, custodian, bookkeeper. I don't know, what else is there? Yeah, about everything. Mrs. T did everything else. And we started the school. We had 5 children. The oldest was 5 years old. That was David, who's now one of our administrators here. The youngest was to be born, just born, he was 10, that was Lloyd, who was only 10 days old. So we had 5 little ones. My wife was half the faculty, but she was in the classroom the very first day on the 11th of September. When we went to rent this old house, the rent was $150. I asked the realtor if we could pay half of it this month and half next. He said, well, Mr. Dober, if you're going to start a business, you're going to need some money. But I guess it'll be all right. So anyway, we started on a shoestring, but God prospered the school, and we opened with 32 students. We had 40 the first year. We were filled up. Went to 80 the next year. Then we added more facilities. We went to 166, and then 200 and some, and then 400 and some. We almost over 600 at one point. And so the school's had a long history. I can't go into all that. I just want to say that we taught all the subjects. We had 3 foreign languages, Latin, German, and we had a parent who came in and taught French. And Mrs. T taught kindergarten, 1st, 2nd grade. And I taught 3rd, I guess, and I taught about 4th through the 8th. Anyway, it worked. And I wanted to just tell you that with this, we also had the opportunity over the years, because everybody got interested in starting Christian schools. And we helped start over 100 Christian schools throughout the United States. Used to travel all over the country, started a bunch of them in California, all over the place. And we even had a school started over in Zimbabwe and Africa. So and of course the school's changed tremendously over the years, and it has changed to meet the market. Now, one thing that's unique about Fairfax Christian School, it is not a tax-exempt school. We chose to pay taxes. We've always been a tax-paying school. And of course, we've saved taxpayers millions of dollars with all the children who have been educated here. I say we, really the parents, because they paid the tuition. The school's been self-supporting. We've never asked anybody for money. And to my knowledge, nobody gets done after you leave the school for gifts. The school's always been self-supporting. And that's one of the principles. I want to mention in just a couple minutes, I think I have left, pull my shirt tail, coat tail, talk too long. But anyway, the school really is based on some principles from the Bible. That is, number one, education, the instruction of children. I like the word instruction better than education, because instruction means to put it in. Educate means to pull it out, if I'm lying, you know. So the instruction of children is to be in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. So it's biblically centered, and that doesn't just mean that you have the regular old curriculum, secular curriculum with Bible tacked on, or chapel at the beginning of the day, or a prayer at the beginning of class, but that every subject is taught from a biblical point of view. So those of you who studied economics learned about principles such as gold, silver. Some of you, I think, may still have some of your gold. We taught economics from a biblical point of view. We tried to teach every subject from a biblical point of view. A second principle was that education or instruction of children is the responsibility of parents. It's not the responsibility of the government or the church. It's the responsibility of parents. And God gave parents that responsibility. And the real people who control Fairfax Christian School are the parents, because we're entirely dependent upon their tuition, sending their children freely. No one's ever been forced to come, and we've never been forced to take anybody. It's a free transaction, and the parents are paying the bill. And that's been a very important principle, because discipline, academic standards, everything really flows out of that relationship. And that's been a principle from the very beginning that we've followed. Now, I don't think I'm going to say anything more, because I could talk all day, all night, but you don't want to hear me. Mrs. T is going to come up here now.
You just stole my first line. You might be interested to know that when I was in high school, a boy told me that the only things girls could do when they grew up were either you can get married, or you can be a teacher, or a nurse. And I thought, I'm going to show you. But I really changed my mind very fast with a mother who makes sure you do what you're told. I got to my junior year, and I was still sort of with my head in the clouds, and I wasn't sure what I was going to major in. And she said, okay, Rosemary, you have two choices. You're a girl, you can have a choice. You can be a nurse, or you can be a teacher. Well, I practically cry every time an ambulance goes by, and I don't even know the people. So that was not a choice at all. So I became a teacher. I had to go to summer school one summer in order to get all the courses in, and so that's what we became. I also wanted to title this a little bit, The Providence of God in the Life of Fairfax Christian School. You know, we all make our plans about what we'd like to do, but it's really God who guides us and tells us, shows us where we're going to be. And it's often very unexpected. My husband and I had almost all our papers made out to go to Japan as missionaries, and that's what we expected to do. And if my second son over there hadn't come along at the right time, that's probably where we'd be right now, is in Japan as missionaries. But I had difficulty carrying him, and I was not about to lose a child. I love children. When I was a young teenager, I told my husband I wanted 7 children. I ended up with 8, which I wish I'd even had more. I always wanted another one when I had them. But I couldn't give up that child. So they had told me we had to go to New Jersey to get a medical exam if we wanted to go. Well, by the time that would have happened, John is born, and Dad has already been asked to come down here and start a church. So here we go down here. And then the church could not support us. So my husband got a job teaching at a private school, and we made plans to start a school for our own children. And at first, Dad worked with a group, and we just don't work very well that way. They had meeting after meeting after meeting, and nothing was happening. So finally, Dad found University Drive, and he said, look, you take the building, and if you don't, I'm going to take it. And they said, you take it. So we did. So we fell into the way we started the school. It wasn't something we had planned. In fact, I'll have to admit that I had a job teaching first grade at the Oakton School right before Ruthie was born, and they had a rule then you couldn't teach while you were pregnant, so they said come back afterwards, so I wasn't able to do that either. But we wanted to have our children brought up in a Christian environment. I taught my first child to read at home and my second child to read at home, but we knew we needed a lot more than that. So we wanted to start a school. So basically, my motivation at first was my own children. I've always asked in life for something that God didn't even give Abraham, so I guess it's kind of funny that I would dare even do that, but I wanted to have a Christian family with every child a Christian and out doing work for the Lord. And that has been my prayer. And so that was my motivation, and I look with fondness upon the years that we had the school. In fact, I miss it now. I'm teaching a couple of my grandchildren over the internet. I'm really not in the shape to get out now and do anything else except teach from there, but I can do that. It's with great joy that I see David and Joe running this school and doing such a nice job with it. And I think you all ought to give them a round of applause.